Hello there guys and welcome to our next class for the fourth unit. This is a class that is part of the high school and ninth high school. We're working on the subject biology and this is week number 30. Let's go over our presentation and let's start with our end in mind. Students will be able to follow the steps of the scientific method to justify the population dynamics. Alright, and here we have a summary of the activities that you need to complete today. Number 1. Read and summarize topic 4.03. And remember to upload your summary to Educativa. And of course, remember to read pages 5 to 7. Number 2, download and complete the lab report from page number 7. Number 3, upload the results of your final report to the evaluation in Agilex. Alright, so let's start. And today we're going to talk about ecosystems, which is something pretty nice, actually. It's a very interesting topic to analyze. So, we can represent some of the dynamics in the ecosystems by taking a look at this picture. And you can notice that you have different animals, such as zebras, rhinos, you have lions right there. And they have some phrases that are interesting as well. They say, this one is mine. Oh, this one, oh, this, I call it first. We're not cool, or back off, this is our turn. And you can beat population dynamics. So what are they actually trying to represent in here? And basically, in any ecosystem, there is always going to be a competition between the species. For three main things, I will say, reproduction, water, and food. That's basically the competition that you are always going to find. And of course, depending on how much animals there are, how much resources there are, of course, it is going to be equivalent to how much animals there are going to be as well. Okay, so we're going to continue talking about population dynamics. And ecologists study the variation in the populations, study the factors that contribute to the growth or decrease of this, as well as hypothesize what will happen to the species in the future. So basically what ecologists do is that they analyze the amount of resources that there are. Let's say the amount of vegetation, the amount of water, and of course, based on that, they are going to determine how much a population can grow or how much animals actually can inhabit that specific ecosystem. So it's something obvious, but it's always necessary to say it. If there is a lot of food, if there is a lot of plants, a lot of water, and of course, if you can find all of those resources at a single place, a lot of animals are going to live there, or at least it's possible that a lot of animals can live in there. But if the water resources as well as the vegetation are very limited, then not a lot of animals can live in there because if they can't find enough food, they are going to die. And because of that, migration is generated, and it is the fluctuation of a mass of species from one place to another. We have immigration and we have emigration. For immigration, it happens when a group of animals moves inside a location. For example, neocoyotes would not be welcomed. Let's suppose that we are talking about something close, San Isidro. Probably you know it from here, from Quetzaltenango. So in San Isidro, you are going to find a lot of vegetation as well as mountains. And it's common for actually the people that are living close by those mountains to know that there are communities of coyotes. But let's suppose that some other coyotes are migrating inside that location. Let's say that they are coming from San Mateo. So, of course, the new coyotes that weren't originally in San Isidro are going to be attacked by the original ones that were there because they want to protect their territory. They want to protect their resources and food. Or else we have emigration. It happens when a group of animals moves out of a location. If enough predators emigrate, it can be catastrophic for the ecosystem. And this is something so interesting to analyze because you know that in the natural world, there are predators as well as prey. And they both are necessary for maintaining an equilibrium in the ecosystem. because, of course, the prey are usually herbivores that are going to consume a lot of vegetation. And predators are going to be carnivores that are going to eat of the herbivores. But what's going to happen if the herbivores don't have a control, let's say, that are not predators to actually regulate their population? Then what's going to happen is that they are going to grow uncontrollably. And let's say that we are talking about zebras. So if there aren't lions, tigers, and any other animals to catch them, they are going to grow uncontrollably. And if before there were 100 zebras, and now we have 300 zebras, then water is not going to be enough. Food is not going to be enough. So what's going to happen? It's possible that that species is going to start dying and auto-regulating itself. Because if all of the zebras consume a lot of vegetation, at the end, all of the species can even die in there. And also we have another important factor for the population dynamics, which are birds. The mating rates of testing periods of a species affect the population. An example can be the alpha wolves and the elephants with long reproductive cycles. So when we talk about a group of wolves, what's going to happen is that only the alpha wolf, as well as well, actually there are two alpha wolves. One is a female and the other one is a male. So they're the only ones that are going to mate, or the only ones that are going to have babies, let's say. So that is a way of controlling the population. And it's part of the process of evolution in which the species have actually learned to survive by only having two members of the group reproducing. And usually wolves have a medium reproductive cycle, let's say. It's not too long nor too short. But what happens in the case of elephants? Elephants have a very long reproductive cycle. So there are only, let's say, certain periods of time in which elephants are going to mate. So if humans, for example, start hunting them down a lot, because right now they're having hunting a lot of animals already in Africa and in many other occasions. Since the elephants don't have a very short reproductive cycle, it's more likely that the elephants are going to become extinct, because there are not enough birds in order to sustain the species itself. That's why it's so important for humans to actually control this kind of situations, or if not, the species are going to continue. And now, habitat. Changing a habitat can change the reproductive cycle of animals. Of course, depending on how much food, how much water they find in there, how much competition as well there is, they can have longer or shorter reproductive cycles. And another interesting thing is the carrying capacity of an ecosystem. And just like you can see right over here, these two birds are fighting for the food that was found at a tree. And it refers to the maximum amount of species that an ecosystem can sustain. So how much, let's say, how much water and how much vegetation the ecosystem has. And of course, depending on that amount of vegetation, how much animals can actually feed from the vegetation and water. But no more than that amount can exist in an ecosystem. Biological surplus, what is it? It is an additional amount of species that an ecosystem can carry. For example, let's say that the carry capacity of an ecosystem is 75 moose. But what's happening is that there were some additional birds. And now instead of being 75, there are 80. In this case, it might not be quite complicated, because there are only an additional 5 amount of animals at that specific ecosystem. But things start to get crazy when this, let's say, extra amounts go over what's possible to sustain by the ecosystem. So instead of having just an extra amount of 5, what happens if the number actually doubles itself? Instead of being 75, we go all the way until 150 moose. What's going to happen is that the ecosystem won't be able to sustain animals and a lot will die. We have Sigmund phenomena. It means that the population of a species has reached stability. The number of deaths and births are equal. There is little or no change at all. Let's suppose that you have a population of 100 birds. And of course, right there we are going to include that there are going to be deaths caused naturally by predators. And we are going to find birds that are, let's say, normal due to the reproductive cycles that they have. So sometimes they can go a little bit above 100, let's say 105, 110, and sometimes they're going to go a little bit under that amount, 95 or 90. But overall, the population is not going to change that much. So that's the point of stability, or just like we know it, sigmoid phenomena. We have peak phenomena. If the population numbers do not stabilize, the resources disappear quickly, and it leads to high rates of mortality. We have boom and bust cycle. The population increases, and so does the competition for food. That increases mortality and the stabilization of the population. Like I was telling you before, if there are more animals than what the ecosystem can actually sustain, a lot are going to die. We have some limiting factors. So ecosystems are pan systems, since energy constantly flows among them. So basically, when we talk about the flow of energy, we mean that, of course, at first, plants are going to convert the energy from the sun and the energy from the soil into sugar and other components that some other animals can consume, which in this case will be herbivores such as turtles, fish, and other type of fish. And of course, then these herbivores already consume an amount of energy that can be consumed by their predators, such as a Norse shark. We have limiting factors are any resources that a species need in order to survive. Basically, food and water. Those are the limiting factors. If there is not enough food for all the species, their population will be forced to decrease. And let's say that there is enough food for 10 elephants, but then the food resources are taken away from them. And instead of having enough food for 10 elephants, there is only enough food for 5 elephants. What's going to happen then? Then, of course, or 5 of them will have to die in order for the rest of the species to survive. There are abiotic factors, which are non-living factors, such as water, temperature, sunlight, air, etc. And they can also be included inside the limiting factors that are going to determine if a population can survive at a certain ecosystem. We also have something called the primary succession. And it is the progress of living growth at a certain location. In Hawaii, active volcanoes constantly release lava. Lava becomes soil. Wind carries seeds that are inserted on the new soil. Vegetation attracts more plant species. And vast vegetation attracts omnivores and herbivores. And lastly, they generate a brand new ecosystem. So this is the primary succession, like, let's say, starting life from zero. So after lava covers a certain place, there is no life at all. You're not going to find plants, animals, etc. But after all of the stages of the primary succession are completed, then a vast type of life is going to be generated at that place. Then we have the secondary succession. Ecosystems can be disturbed or destroyed by natural disasters, such as the tsunami that you are seeing right there. These ecosystems can host vast vegetation and animal life faster than the primary succession. An example of a phenomenon that can disturb an ecosystem can be a tsunami. So, if we analyze the primary succession and the secondary succession, where is life going to appear faster? It's going to happen in the secondary succession. Because let's say that the ecosystem has been already built once. So it already has all of the properties and all of the structure that is necessary in order to host life. And that'll be about it for today's class, guys. Thank you a lot for coming, and I will see you during our live session in Zoom. Goodbye, and always take care.